Good to go. Perfect. That's fancy with the new little control panel up there. I like it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started with our facilities meeting, January 13th, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here, and we will jump right into the agenda. I don't know if Dr. Robbins wants to start.
Sure. So the first thing on the agenda was a discussion on the ponds property. And just to keep that in conversation, last meeting, we were very, nervous about where we were in that process. But in the last, it's been 30+ days, we have had weekly, if not weekly conversations with Coulter, with Thomas and Hutton, who is doing the civil engineering work for Coulter, with the county, multiple conversations with the county. And we feel like right now we are in, even though it's aggressive, we are still in a good position for us to start turning dirt in March. We have submitted our early site package requests. And so all of our paperwork is up and ready, and we have had some discussion with our contractor, which is, as you recall, is Hood Construction, to possibly mobilize their heavy equipment. Even as we get closer to that finale, we have more information. But for the sake of tonight, is publicly sharing, and I definitely can yield to Tony, who's had some of those conversations with Thomas and Hutton, civil engineer, for Coulter. But we feel like we're in a good position. We have good channels of communication right now. Rhonda is sitting on a couple of those monthly committee meetings as well. And so honestly, it was one of those meetings that brought this to light that we may need to make sure that we're engaged in this process. So again, everybody seems to be very willing to support us to make sure that we don't miss that timeline. But as long as we can start turning dirt in March, then we should, barring any catastrophes, be ready to open a building in August of 26. Got this thing.
I apologize to cut you off super quick, just because I don't want to get away from our agenda. I did not ask if there are any public comments. Do we have any public comments for this evening's facilities meeting? I think we only have one member of the public here.
No, thanks.
Perfect. So I apologize, but I just wanted to make sure we're all.
I did get an email this afternoon from OSF.
Okay.
We got a building permit. We got a building permit. Also, we've got, we do still have the state MS4, the ground disturbance and all that other permitting to go through, but all that is in the process. So I'm comfortable with that as well. We found out last week, or it was the week before Christmas, we had a conversation with the state DES. We were getting close on the Oak Brook projects. So we made a call to the coastal zone, and within 24 hours, we had that hammered out. So they're more than willing to work with us on these little projects, which is phenomenal to have a person that we can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, we need some help here because it's our timeline. So we're in good shape.
Remind me the site plan we're using. We're reusing a site plan for there.
So the site plan.
The facility itself.
Oh, the facility itself, yes, we are just prototype that we use for Fort Dorchester Elementary, Pye Elementary, the Sires, and this will be the fourth iteration of that prototype from LS3P that we actually, somebody way back when had forethought district to purchase that. We own that prototype, so we can, at a moment's notice, we can get a good find a death on that anywhere we want to.
Were there a lot of adjustments or anything for the actual site?
There were some things we had to take into consideration, and I think probably the biggest thing we had to take into consideration was the actual site plan and the geotech part of it. The civil part is where we had to beef up things a little bit, but that's all.
So I mean, it sounds like we're moving forward. Just the past couple of weeks, I know a lot of us have had different discussions with some different entities and
And I think that's all good. The more you guys can do that, to let everybody know you're engaged in this process. And again, I feel like people have communicated with us really well after Christmas. And so I'm very confident that we're going to be in a good position. But we'll continue to have those conversations multiple times a week to make sure we don't miss a gap somewhere.
any questions from anybody around the table specific to the ponds property?
Just to add to that, I did have an opportunity to sit down with, David Chennis. He's the new chair for county council, and he and I have had several conversations now. And they 100% want to see us make this timeline and doing everything they can to, support. And so I feel like that's very open and good communication over there as well. They're on board to help us in any way. So I feel very good about that.
Everybody else, all good? Say, and then I'll just echo, I had a good conversation with Representative Brewer. He's also kind of in the mix, more so like the permitting side of it. From a state level, he's actually attacking permitting, not even just for schools, but for major construction projects. He's from the construction industry. And he sees a lot of those bottlenecks. And so I think he's doing some good work on that side for the school side of it as well. So, yep. All good. All right, we shall move on to yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so the next thing I had that's kind of underneath that category, and no one panic. This is just to give you a first look at some things to maybe let resonate and consider as we move into the future. But as I've met with Tony several times, honestly, since I moved here 3 years ago, we have looked at potential property realignments and things that we could do with property that we have that's just not really, it's not really good property for commercial operations. It's residential property. So we own 3 homes, and you'll see this in our recommendations. But we also, really what brought this to light was the Gavans property. And we'll talk a little bit about the Gavans property as well, because of the most recent flood, which makes the second flood that we've had out on that property. And what are we going to do? The board's going to have to make a decision on what you want to do with that property. And I wanted to give you just some background. So next slide, Amy. So the biggest thing, just for your situational awareness and just a summary for consideration. Dorchester County, center of growth, and the largest town is Somerville. And since 2000, it's grown the fastest of any large and medium-sized municipality by 63%, and is currently the 7th largest municipality in the state. We own several properties that are not commercially rated and really not sufficient for professional workspaces. I have walked in those facilities. We make do. We've done a good job with retrofitting them, but I had Kenny walk me in. I've had Tony walk me through those to see how many bodies are actually in those buildings and what they look like. As enrollment increases and our need for construction increases, the one thing that we can't rest on is a developer is going to give us property. And so we need to position ourselves with seed money if we need to go out and purchase property to construct a building in the near future. And that might not be during any of our timelines, and life expectancies in this district, but planning for the future,
Killing us off.
employment expectancies. I apologize. I apologize. And so what this could possibly do for us is it would create or expand starter money or seed money to purchase properties that would link into our long-range facilities plan. And when I say facilities, I'm not talking just buildings, I'm talking site plans. And then the other thing it would allow us to do is centralize our DD2 employees in a more suitable workspace, which again, if you all remember in 2022, we had looked at about $1 million investment in the gymnasium behind us for office space. And I paused that because we really had just moved into this building and I wanted to see as the dust settled where people were. But right now we have people that are fragmented all over the place. And so the other thing this could do for us is potentially mitigate costs as well. Next slide. So I asked Tony to give me the specific details of the lots, and what you can see is the Gavance property is about 11.5 acres, a little bit more. And the building is 1,380 square feet. Right now, it used to occupy special education, Gavance, the alternative school, and then it was the tech center. And now it's not occupied, obviously, because of the flood. An approximate appraisal value on that is, roughly, $500,000, but who knows? Obviously, that's in a flood zone, and in the middle of that property is a leach field. So it's on a septic and a well system, so it makes it really kind of hard. You'd have to do some serious remediation to the property if you wanted the entire acreage to build on. So that's one piece of property. And I'll get more into the details on each property in a second. The second property is 112 Joyce Lane. That's about 3/4 of an acre, and the technology department has been relocated from Gavance there. That one, estimate is about $462,000 for that property. And again, this is a house. And again, I'll show you a map, but to visually give you an idea where that is, that's the one that's right behind the stadium. The third property is Magnolia Street, and it's about a little over 1/2 an acre. And again, about a 1,380 square foot house. Right now, Sodexo operates out of that facility, and his estimate on that one is about $330,000. The fourth property is 212 Joyce Lane, and that's where our child find services are. And that's almost 1/2 an acre. And right now, that estimate is just under $300,000. And again, property is only worth what people are willing to pay for it. So it just depends. It could be worth more, it could be worth less. Next slide. So on this slide, I just try to do an assessment for you all. So Gavance obviously used to be the alternative, used to be an elementary school, used to be alternative school, used to be the tech center. We have 0 student occupants. We have 0 staff there. The annual utility costs are $33,000. The annual maintenance costs are about $20,000. And the big assessment on this was in 2015, we had a flood and we remediated the building and it cost us about $1 million. And so now we turn around in 2024, we have another flood, which means remediation again. We had to rip up to 3 feet up, the drywall out and take all the doors off. It's going to be some considerable work. And again, that's probably about $1 million. The struggle with that facility is it's on a septic, it's on a well system. So those are different DHEC requirements. And even with technology out there, the water's not being used enough and we're having to close off the water because so I'll pause there and I'll say I gave you 2. And again, that could be 3 or 4. I'm just starting with 2. And again, not asking for, this is just really for conversation and information tonight. Course of action number 1 would be to sell that property for fair market value, invest the proceeds into a line item for future land purchase. Course of action 2 would be to donate the property to the adjacent community church, which is Canaan United Methodist Church. There is a process to do that. In my last district, we donated one of our schools for a nominal amount to a church organization that wanted to do that statutorily. And I asked Christy to look into this. If that's something you all wanted to consider, we can do it because it's a nonprofit. So you don't have to list it and sell it, like a property, and schools are different on how you sell schools. So those are a couple options I wanted to give you all that you could consider doing with that property. I'm not asking for, I just wanted to kind of lay a couple things out for you. And I'm going to share all these slides. They're actually in your facilities board docs, and you can go through and you can look and you can ask questions, and Tony or myself or Jeff are happy to answer them.
So currently, right now, it's just sitting empty. Not using it for storage anymore, because I know at one point we had stuff.
We're using, only thing we're stored right now is a couple of boats.
Yeah.
That's just excess stuff that we pulled out of the warehouse to kind of get it out of there for right now.
I mean, really, right now, it's costing us money.
It is, it is.
So, I mean, and there's no real chance at using that space. It sounds,
It's,
especially with the water.
it's just a risk if we do that again, you know, because now we've already invested $1 million, we'd have to invest another $1 million, you could take a chance. And it doesn't fix the water and sewage issues there, which means it's really not something we could use for a school. You know, originally I was talking to you all about using that as our first pilot childcare center. But because of the water and sewage issues, that isn't even going to be,
Yeah.
you know, something we could, pardon me.
Maybe the new aquatic center.
Can you imagine driving kids off over there for Charleston?
Open water swimming.
So, but we probably sooner rather than later, because it's just sitting there costing us money. And people are asking, and you know, I met with the Canaan folks, the Canaan church folks a couple times. And in between the first time and the second time I met with them, just so you all know, just for transparency's sake, my former board chair in Kershaw County is a minister and he was assigned to church. So just so you know, I know the new minister really well. And again, they had to, you know, relocate their church for a short period of time as well. So again, that's something that we could consider. We can try to sell it, you know, again, whatever the board would like to see, but I think decision.
Have they expressed an interest in having them?
Yeah, you know, what they really wanted is to not see, now this was before the flood, was to not see us get rid of the building or tear it down because it has some serious historical value to them. Because the name of that school used to be Canaan Elementary School. And so I had conversations with them about bringing a recommendation. Going to make it a childcare center, make it the, you know, Canaan, you know, childcare center, you know, try to, but again, lots happened since then, like a lot of rain. So I haven't talked to them since the floods on where they stand, but I thought I would have had those discussions.
And so there's really, so you're saying it's just goodwill if we were to donate it to them?
Yeah.
I love the idea of that.
We can list it and see what offers.
Okay, yeah.
And then if no offers,
I like the idea of it, but it's like the highest value property on our list right, out of these ones too.
Yes and no, on the dollar amount I put on there, but because of, again, back to what I said, it's the largest and you know, it's worth what people pay for it. I don't know what, you know, somebody would be willing to pay for that knowing it's in a flood zone. Now they're doing some work out there off of Cavans Road to try to improve that. So that may change the value of the property. But that's why I put course of action number 1 was to list it for fair market value.
Still got that Leachfield.
Yeah, if you've got some time, you can pull it up on Google Maps and look at the whole 11 acre GIS. And right, I'm on this dead center of that 11 acres is a cleared 1 acre grass field. And that's what the leach field is. It's a 1 acre leach field right now.
A leach
Park.
Septic tank.
Septic.
It's a septic leach field. It's
Yeah, so it figures out.
So is it, like, who would want to buy this? I mean, I'm genuinely curious. Like,
But that's,
what would be the interest? I mean, honestly, I'm just curious.
that's what may affect, I'm sure it adversely affect property.
Yeah, so that right, that value, appraised value, is it taking all that into account?
No, that's just that's a
That's
guess.
not your highest value property.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it might not be, you know, honestly.
Probably need to get an act like, don't need to get
An
a
appraisal.
appraisal based on
Yeah.
everything going on right now. That would probably be
Yeah,
helpful.
these numbers are real generic.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. So maybe that would be the next step,
Okay.
getting some concrete, especially for that one specifically, because I feel like starting there.
what these buses about 55,000 a year right now, it's operated.
To keep it, yeah.
We're keeping it in condition just to keep the environmental issues at bay.
Mold.
All right, we've got kids in.
Yeah. I mean, when they were rehabbed in in 2015, did a nice job, you know, I mean. Somebody expected we have another flood again.
Yeah, I mean, we did it with a way so that the walls were done in a waterproof, whatever that waterproof membrane or whatever it was, I guess.
Exterior, right?
But on the interior, we did it up to a certain height. It's all-
The interior was completely redone in 2015.
Right.
But the special is just going around that.
Yeah, it was just driveway.
So you could, even if you did like a membrane around the entire building, it's not just coming up, it's coming through everything. It's coming through all the piping.
It's coming through floor drains.
Comes through everything.
So what happens is your ground outside gets saturated and the leach field sits about, the elevation on the leach field is about 3 feet higher than full finished floor height. And then you start having that hydraulic pressure, just start pumping water up through every crack. And that makes it.
We had a sandbag.
That's not.
Coming up. The second property is 112 Joyce Lane, and again, that's temporarily where technology is. This, this is home, it could be in a good enough condition to be reverted back to a single family home. There is, so there really is two, courses of action. One, again, is always going to be sell it for fair market value, see if I think it would sell. Or the other would be to demolish the home for, say, stadium, overflow parking. But since that time, I put that in there, Tony and I have looked at some things. I think I may even showed you, there's an opportunity right across the stadium when we do some things with span, create that. It would be more convenient, to be honest with you. So really to sell the property would be ideal.
And then what would you essentially do with the technology?
So all of this is contingent on the fact that part of our CPF plan right now is going ahead and finishing the work in the gymnasium for office space. And then also that will create a meeting space as well. And we would take technology and put them in Marshall O'Brien, make that our technology center, and then Marshall O'Brien Center, and then that garage that's right. That brick is a brick garage or that's right next to it, clean that out, and that would be technology storage. So we think we have plenty of office spaces to start bringing folks in, bringing them back. The next one is the 801 Magnolia Street, which is where Sodexo is. Again, that could be converted back to a single family home. And again, I would recommend, my first course of action would be to sell it for fair market value. There are 3 Sodexo employees? How many that work out there?
6 or 9.
8 or 9.
It's pretty.
Oh, yeah, I
It's pretty
got
full.
it here, I got it. And we could relocate those into the trailers, the classroom trailers that are on Span's property.
So is that our responsibility to provide them, that's part of like our
That's part
agreement
of
with
the
them?
contract, yeah. The last home is the one that's on 212 Joyce Lane, and that's where our Child Find location is. And again, with the renovation of office space, we could easily move them, into one of these spaces with Child Find being here in the gymnasium, and again, bringing special ed, all kind of back together and centralizing some of those ancillary programs and sell that property as well. It's really not conducive. Have you ever been in it, any of you? You walk in it, and you walk to the back, there's an addition they added on that goes down to the angle. If you're 6'4", you're gonna struggle a little bit. And you walk back here, so again, just not a good professional workspace.
We had a lot of fun. We went on furniture.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
The final property I have on here is Gum Street. And that is where the Rawlings athletic fields used to be. So it's on the corner basically of Berlin G Parkway and
Joyce Lane / South Gum.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's right beside.
So it's right there across from the commuter, or that the skate.
No, the
Yeah.
other side.
The one that this.
Where you park,
Park commuter park.
Yeah.
The commuter park.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is just a little over.
Or where the park is now.
directly across Was that
Park and ride.
Sixth?
The park and ride.
You go down George Lane
Yeah,
on the left,
Yeah.
and it's right there by the.
that's not Joyce.
It borders the, it borders the Express.
You know, the White House and its fan?
Yes.
Yeah, White House expand.
Yeah.
You're looking at the White House expand, to the left, past the compactor, the grass compactor. That-
There's a ball field.
Yeah.
And you can see the fence up. That's a little over 2 acres. It's really,
Sorry, because
Was that the Alston? We did Alston.
There was a baseball field there.
That's right.
No, it's, you know, it's right there.
This is the span, it was the Rod Williamson span field.
111
I'll
gone.
tell you what, just if you give me a second and I go to this final slide, you'll see it. Where it's located. So go ahead. Thank you.
Remember I told you the town reached out about the skate park and wanting to expand that area?
Escape.
Yeah, I know. That's not that. That's on the other side.
Okay.
No, that's on the other side.
I was trying to picture where it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I had a discussion for them to do that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I gave you just kind of a little legend so you could see where these properties are located. Just took this off of map west. Number 5, that's the ball field. So you can see the parkway and I'm not sure what that street is, but the street that runs parallel to the parkway is Gum Street. And it runs, if you keep going down, it goes right into the span parking lot. So those houses are boom, 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 and then that property. And of course, number 1 is out off of Gavance Road, and that's the Gavance School. I know it's a lot to digest. I just felt like it was an opportunity to get it out to you now, and you can kind of sit and think about it. You know, it's not like you have to do all or nothing, you know, if you want to just focus on the Gavance property, you can focus on that. I just think we're in a good position right now because properties at a premium, Somerville, that houses, if we can relocate and we don't necessarily need the houses and we've got good space for those folks, let's sell those properties and, because we're not going to expand out in that direction. The other thing to remember is when we looked at our demographic study, Span and Somerville, you know, we're looking at consolidating Span down into probably 3 different locations because the town of Somerville is not growing. There's just no place for it to grow in those attendant zones. So that'll be a different discussion, but Kenny and I went into GIS and we have kind of looked at, separate that out into Somerville Elementary School, Austin Bailey Elementary, and Cyrus Elementary, and actually make it more geographically convenient for families by doing that. So again, I know a lot to digest. Call any of us, ask us with questions, and you know, this is just the start of the conversation.
What's the timeline for potentially diluting Span?
Fall of 26.
As we bring.
As we bring Somerville online, the ponds online, you know, I wouldn't want to bring you guys a rezoning request every year. That's not fun. You all know that's not fun. So the 26, the fall of 26 gives us this year, all of next year, allows us to have meetings. We can show it on the map, you know, and really make a good, comfortable decision. With the renovation work and the referendum we're doing at Somerville Elementary School, it will have plenty of space to house quite a few more kids. There's only 550 roughly students in Somerville Elementary, and it has a current capacity of over 800. And we're going to add on, how many classrooms do we say? Do we cut it back?
Adding 12 classrooms.
12 classrooms.
Plus the cafeteria.
Plus
Yeah.
the classroom and cafeteria.
Yeah, so,
We're gonna end up with 16 spaces.
so that puts us up to 1,100, you know, capacity of 1,100 students.
How many is that span?
Five,
63.
yeah.
563.
Yeah, you can almost take them all, and, but if you look at the map, yeah, it's, and Austin Bailey and Cyrus, beautiful schools, new schools that are not at capacity. They're about 62%. So,
That brings in the Somerville to that North Charleston Cyrus too.
Yeah.
Because we're not really growing either. So.
good, is there any questions? If not, it's, you take a chance and you can just get hold of us.
Questions so far, pretty good. Anything else on the referendum side that we are kicking off or working on that we need to?
We hope to have, the contracts finalized for Sand Hill, Jay Davis, this week and get, Dr. Robinson signed those this week. And as soon as we do that, we cut them a PO and that's their notice to proceed. We are at that point where they're gonna come to me, Thursday with the GMP and probably massage that a little bit. And hopefully have a final price by the first of next week and be ready to start putting up fencing and relocating stormwater, shutting the ground. I think we already got a new basketball court, and I think that's been done. So it's we relocated to them, accommodated everything, so we're on the cusp there. We are also on the cusp of, the contracts is not a referendum, but it's capital. The Oak Brook projects are right there. We've got, just about all the permitting done for the Oak Brooks. But Oak Brook Middle School, we got all the permits. Oak Brook Elementary, I think we need, the CZC and stormwater stuff. So, but that'll probably be coming through within the next week or so. So, and then they're coming with their GMP next Thursday. So it's all lining up to kick off by the first of the month.
Perfect. Love it.
So not just the larger ones that Tony mentioned, but a lot of the smaller projects, the referendum that are gonna be going on at the schools. So for example, like Knightsville's getting a full abatement of all the last little bit of, wall paneling and, window coverings that have contained asbestos. So that's gonna happen this summer, along with, a full flooring replacement for that building and a full paint job. So, we'll have a lot of those things that are kicking off as well, that should happen this summer, and then going into the next year or two. Kick off as well, so that'll be good.
And just from my side, as we get into those projects, any of those we can do shovels in the grounds, groundbreaking, just from a district perspective, I think is a good look to show people, hey, we're actually moving forward with projects and celebrating these projects.
So,
We talked too about like maybe even signs out front, some places saying like, this is your referendum money work, kind of highlighting that this is.
Those times will be done by the construction companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put those in places where everybody that drives, every car rider is gonna be able to see that sign. I mean, people like at Sand Hill, even though you probably won't ever know that there's any construction going on because of where it's happening,
it's in the back.
we're gonna have a sign.
Yeah.
So kind of thinking, because we have so many projects going on. But here, Tony and I talked about this, here's what we were thinking. The classroom additions at Sand Hill, the classrooms additions at Oak Brook, the classroom addition at Somerville, the gymnasium at Somerville High School, two elementaries. And then with other elementary school, those were the big, there's 6 big ones that, unless there's others you want. A lot of that stuff is internal work. I mean, unless we did, the gymnasium or the classroom additions in the 3 high schools as well. That is the gymnasium at Somerville, but actually Ridge and Board as well. So the James, then we could definitely schedule. Brian. So, I'll work through you on that and we'll work through Freedom Berry, Chamber of Commerce and kind of bring them into the loop to do.
I was already looking at custom shovels that we can order.
Still gold shovels.
We generally can get the contractor to provide the golden shovels and hard hats.
Yeah.
Let's say that's,
Perfect.
Oh, no,
Golden shovel.
don't worry.
Very nice.
I'm sure we can make a contract.
Yeah, if you have to say in the contract, it will provide. All right, so moving right along, if we're good with capital improvement referendum stuff. I think we had a line item for, maybe to talk about some energy usage,
So, obviously, I'm just getting into this since, about a couple months now, but, I dug into it a little bit with Jennifer, our, energy manager, and, we saw the biggest reduction probably in like 2020. And that's when we had about a 20% reduction in energy overall. We haven't got data entered because, obviously we have to get the invoices and enter all that into the, energy management program. But we've got everything entered up through about September 24. And, the program typically pulls it June to June. So what we have is a rough breakdown of our EUI, which is our energy intensity, our energy use intensity report. So right now, compared to 23 to 24, and now this is only going through June of 24, we're about 7.8 EUI less than the year before, which is pretty good considering that we've brought East Esto online. And so what we've done is we've kind of maintained at the same level for the past 3 or so years. I don't expect us to go down much lower than we are now because we've kind of, gotten to a point and with us adding on new space and new square footage, that's going to go up. But we do have some significant projects coming forward, which, we just finished the span lighting and HVAC projects, which that will definitely reduce our energy consumption at that campus. Same thing for Knightsville. We've got 4 schools that are getting, ceiling grid and lighting in the referendum. So that's like Beach Hill, Austin Middle School, and then Newington and Flowertown. I would expect to see a pretty big savings overall from those 4. So that'll start, keeping it downward trend or helping us maintain status. Unfortunately, a lot of times the kilowatt hours that we use, staying consistent doesn't necessarily mean or going lower doesn't mean we're going to save money because, the rates go up. But we're just trying to kind of maintain our kilowatt usage as best we can. We're
What was
obviously
that
gonna,
number in the reduction again?
7.8 EUI.
Can you tell us what that means? That, I don't know.
And that's from last year, like this last year.
Tony's a little better because he was the energy manager. So
So the energy use index, that takes into account all the energy in every building. So that, and what it does, it boils down the kilowatt hours, of electricity, the therms on natural gas, and everything boils down to one common unit, and that's the British thermal unit. So your energy use index is how many, it's called KBTU, 1,000 BTUs per square foot. So as your square footage increases, you don't see an increase in your EUI because you hope to maintain that consumption at the same level that you have. So you're not impacting the energy use as much. You're using more energy, but you're using it as efficiently as you already are. One of the big factors that we're going to see, there's a couple things. We've got the energy code, Act Rate 90.1 and Act Rate 62.1. 62.1 is your ventilation standard. That has changed in the past 10, 15 years, where now you learned that this building, we've got air conditioning, chill water, but you have to mandatorily have fresh air being pumped in. And that fresh air is what costs a lot of money to condition, to pump into a space, because what you try to do is you try to pump in neutral air. So those units are sitting out there, they're running all the time. Your air conditioner may be off, but those are constantly pumping in 100% outside air into your space to maintain your ventilation. And that's just,
And that requires a lot of energy.
and that requires a lot of, those are the biggest pieces.
But you don't really have a choice.
We have no choice. So that's one of the things that can negatively impact the EUI is as we bring new schools or old schools up to standard, those standards will apply.
You would think it would be more efficient, but it's not.
Well, so the air conditioning systems themselves would be more efficient, where you're probably going from a degraded SEER 8 unit to now a 15 or 16 unit. So you're getting that efficiency
More
there.
efficient, just not
But
energy.
you're having these large outdoor air units that are dedicated outdoor air units, and they're required by code, especially on the schools. So
I think, so our question really centers too around, we had the new initiative, the cost savings initiative to not have mini refrigerators and heaters and microwaves and those sort of things and throughout the schools, which, doesn't really sound like a big deal, but I think it actually is a big deal for a lot of our staff. And so, I just want to make sure that if this is something that's really important and really is saving us money and is necessary, if we're gonna have it, it needs to be worth it because it affects people on a day-to-day, affects them a lot adversely. I would
Share
say.
with them how much you saved when you did it the last time.
So the last time we went through that, we saved them a bit of money. I can't remember right off the top of my head. I know, I remember High Elementary and it's still total electric school. There's no natural gas there. It's all electric heat, electric chiller out in the whole thing. And it's still a poor performer because electricity wise, but we made some adjustments to the system and we were able to remember $20,000 that from the prior 2 years, we reduced it by. So we were able to share some of that savings with the school back then. That was a program, it was a fairly good program at the time. But I think we're at a point now that we have to get people on board with efficiency and making sure that everybody's doing what they can to save electricity. It's the energy management plan that was written in 2012 has been updated and it'll probably be coming to the board for reapproval at some point. But in that energy efficient or energy management plan, it clearly states that refrigerators, personal appliances in classrooms won't be allowed. Set points on air conditioning will be 72 plus or minus 1 degree. Heating will be set at 69 degrees plus or minus 1 degree. So all those things, it's poor policy, but on out to. And to make this thing work and to actually have some savings, everybody has to be on board.
And I will say more so than just the personal appliances is people have to understand how serious we are on this. And I'll give you an example, and I won't name the school, because it's not fair to name the school, but last week on, Wednesdays, I go out and I go to schools. Last Wednesday, it was 32 degrees out. And I went to a particular school to start the school day, and every entrance that a student could come in to start the school day was propped open. 32 degrees. That entire hallway was freezing. And it's just because people didn't want to open and close doors. So a lot of this isn't just that, it's behavior modification and it's people understanding how serious we are about taking care of our facilities. Because again, our buildings, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, they're balanced. And what I mean by balanced is when those doors are opened, you imbalance the system. And so when you leave those doors open like that, it cools down, it has to work triple as hard to try to catch itself back up. And that's just really expensive for the size of facilities we have. So there are some other things with the energy management that we have to work at. It's just not all, I don't want people to think it's all personal appliance stuff. It's behavior modification. It's turning lights out. When we come in on the weekend and we see TVs on and computer screens on and things like that, again, across 25, 26 locations, that adds up. A dime across all those places ends up being quite a bit of money, So those are things that we have to internally do, and people just need to understand we got to hold them accountable.
We'll implement some things like, biggest thing, like easy things are like breaks, spring break, fall break.
Yeah.
Summer break, just make sure we have checklists in place that, maybe the administration can work with their teachers and staff. To go through and just make sure we're cutting down on breaks, because we've had several breaks in the past year that you go check it out and everything's on. And, that kind of stuff right there that we can take into account. And then the other thing that we've done is, so we've had a pretty good run at replacing some units and repairing some units. So we've got some schools that have had units that have been struggling to run for a few years, and now they're up and running. So unfortunately, that's going to come with a cost, because now that they're running, we're not going to be paying the energy cost of those units running. And mostly it's fresh air. The fresh air equipment would probably be at 95% of every school district's problem with HVAC. fresh areas. It's just nature, the way they're designed.
So do we have, I mean, just to go back to the personal use things, do we have an approximation of the percentage that that could save us just to kind of make it tangible? Because I understand what you're saying is that it's hard to separate that out. But it would be helpful to be able to say to people, you know, when, because if you ask and then it makes.
So I had done the math one time and the standard, you know, dorm fridge, I think it costs somewhere around $50 a year to run that. So if then you walk through the school and you start doing the multiplication, it adds up pretty quick. They're over 3.6 million square feet.
But like, what was the other thing? Not coffee pots, heaters. What about those? What do you know?
That's the hours.
Well, I know, I'm trying to think of like, somebody asked me, I could be like, well, $50 a year, like, you know.
Well, heater, I think you can use the fire marshal, because that's a huge safety. Yeah, sir.
I know.
Say it louder.
Because you safety issue, that to me is like a absolutely
Oh, yeah.
hard no problem,
Yeah.
period. I mean,
That
that's a
is.
safety issue.
And also too, with the safety issues, when you have personal appliances, who's monitoring them, who's, the wiring, how old are they, it's just,
The nice thing now is a lot of people use Keurigs, and the Keurig is like a coffee pot,
Is that
so.
allowed?
I mean, technically, no. I mean, but I'm just saying, but when that policy came into place, Keurig wasn't really a big
Yeah.
thing.
Well, that's what I was wondering, is that
That would be a
something
much
that?
more efficient way
Yeah,
to have a cup of coffee and still save there.
yeah,
That's a very
yeah,
efficient appliance.
yeah.
Do we, on the same token, are we still getting any sort of incentive or money back for the solar stuff we did
So we
years ago?
received 27,000 last year from the solar,
Said 27,000.
and we're still getting grants and rebates as we switch over to LED. Usually it's for bigger space, so like if we get hurt like in the multi-purpose LED, we're gonna get a rebate back. With these big projects coming up, we're not gonna get savings, we're gonna get rebates.
I know at one point we had talked about possibly some sort of solar, we'll call it a subsidy for our larger buildings, like the high schools. Because then you can match it up with a STEM program.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's grant money to create a solar field on those campuses that can then give us back some energy.
We would have to check with our current solar provider.
So my recent experience, I tried to do this in Kershaw County. The challenge is, it was a legal challenge, was we were trying to put solar panels on our parking light posts and on our roofs. And so I had a company come in, a national company, international company, and the law requires that they pay us premium rate for the energy that we are providing them. And their contracts didn't allow them to do that, and therefore we couldn't enter into, as a government entity, into those contracts. So finding somebody willing to draft a contract that would say, so like, for example, Dominion's a good example, that eats into their business, if we are, and so by saving, the cost, they won't buy back, the energy. They're gonna charge us what's it called? An expected rate or an expected based on the size of our facility. And so not buying us back penny for penny is, we just can't do. You familiar with any of that? Yeah, I worked for almost 2 years on a project.
I talked to a lot of solar folks, before we entered into that agreement with community solar. Probably 2016, 2017, somewhere. But, the one reason we agreed to go with the community solar is we don't have any panels on site. Everybody else wanted to put them on the roof.
Yeah, on the roofs and penetrate the, yeah.
if I had my way, we would put solar panels over every parking spot at Ashland Green Park.
Yeah.
That big parking lot out there, that would be a solar field
Yeah.
and they could park under it. But,
I mean, can we,
but there again, you know, the legalities of it and how do we contractually enter into that with Dominion? Like Robin said, you know, they'll probably say, yeah, go ahead and do it. And then we get down to it, we end up paying more for electricity than they were making. So,
They have to sign the contract.
yeah,
Is the problem.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get them to sign it.
yeah. That Dominion up there, Kershaw.
No, it was Duke. Yeah, it was Duke.
Awesome.
Any other questions on energy usage?
Good there. We haven't been enforcing that personal piece.
Body bots or all of it? Unless you're going classroom to classroom.
with our.
Well, that's what our energy manager's supposed to do. Yeah, that's,
Who's our energy manager again?
Jennifer Kitros. But when we get the plan revised and get it to you all, you know, maybe there'll be something, some updates in the policy, maybe it'll come with a little more teeth if we want to go that route, or, and maybe we can come back with some better. I can probably get some more options and some better data, so we can kind of have that to share. I can get you some estimated, like, you know, usage for a year of the varying appliances that I see throughout, and we can kind of come up with something like that as an average.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I will tell you this, in 2000, in 2000, the state mandated a program called 20 by 20. You had to have a 20% reduction by the year 2020. We met that in 2019, so we did have a 20% energy usage reduction, even though we went through all those changes from 2000, you know, additions, new schools and everything. We were able to reduce our kilowatt consumption by 20%. That's one. This is Jeff's office.
I'm good.
We didn't get the award till 21 months.
All right, moving on, everybody good? Good to go. Any public comments? Anything we have discussed tonight? Or one member of the public, looking to see none. So we will adjourn this meeting to head into our 6 o'clock meeting.